Hey guys, it's Hannah553. Welcome back to another Beyblade X unboxing. Today we're going to be checking out the latest release from Takara Tomy, that being Sol Eclipse. So first off, have a look at the packaging. It's your standard CX starter packaging. Got a very nice image of Sol Eclipse right up front. Just it being broken down. What it comes with, CX-09 on the side, balance type. And on the back of the box, it just goes into more details of the bay itself. Talks about all the different modes it has. There are the owners for Sol Eclipse. Very long time since we've seen a bay that actually has two different bladers, which is pretty cool. So, full breakdown. So, of course, we have the Sol Eclipse blade. So, it includes the Sol lock chip, the Eclipse primary blade with two different modes, and then we've got the D assist blade. Ratchet is 570, and then we have the new TK bit, as well as the hold launcher, ripcord, and winder. So let's get into this. So yeah, this is going to be a very interesting release, as this is really where mode change finally kicks off for Beyblade X. So of course we have the long winder, or the hold winder, the launcher, and then of course we got the bay itself. Oh. So that's the blade. That looks really, really good. Got the ratchet. And finally the bit. Oh, come on. Alright, so I'll get all the parts laid out and we'll go over the bay in more detail. Alright, so here is Sol Eclipse out of the packaging. So first off, you do get the standard winder launcher with the hold / long ripcord. And yeah, that is a really nice free spinning ripcord and launcher. Pretty cool. Unfortunately, you do not get the CX assembly tool with this, which I'm actually a little disappointed by. I feel like that should have been really included with this. But anyways, let's now focus on the bay itself. So first off, we have a look at the Sol lock chip. Pretty cool design overall. Let's see. I guess that's trying to look like some magma, something sunny. So it's your standard CX lock chip, just now in clear plastic. Next up, we have the Eclipse primary blade. So this is where the mode change for this bay really begins. Now on the packaging, they do advertise this as having 8 different modes, but that is combining the assist blade and the bit. But if you're just taking the blade and the primary blade and the assist blade into account, you only really have 4 modes. But still, that's still pretty good. So this blade has some pretty interesting contact points. So when it's in the stock combo, so like say orange side up, as you can see the contact points are a bit more going downward like this, with the big contact points pointing upward. So this blade will definitely benefit for some really nice balance type defensive type combos when it's in this mode. But you can now flip it over to this really nice blue side. I think this looks pretty cool. But then when you have it like this, as you can see, there's contact points and now pointing a lot more downward. And because of this, with these big contact points here, this actually leads to this blade having some really crazy recoil and making it pretty aggressive as well. So this will definitely benefit for some attack type combos. Still, really, really nice, pretty heavy. This is probably one of the heaviest CX blades that have been made available. So, pretty nice primary blade. Next up, we have the new assist blade known as Jewel. Now, Jewel here is pretty interesting as it is another assist blade that does have a mode change similar to Turn. Now, if I actually bring in Turn, for example, now we'll say it's a bit hard because of the clear plastic, but the cores for both Turn and Jewel are the exact same core. So there's no molding difference between the two cores, which is pretty interesting. Now, I guess that kind of makes sense because they need to share the same kind of gimmick. Because with the, say, the dual outer ring, you can actually put this on the turn core. If I get this line up, I always have trouble lining this up. There we go. So as you can see, the turn core can actually fit the dual outer ring, which is pretty cool. And vice versa, the turn outer ring can fit the dual core. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm very happy to see that they are keeping this system, at least for these two. Still very, very nice. So I'll just put this outside. So now I'm focusing on turn. So out of the box, as you can see, the blade is pretty much pointing downward with its contact points, as you can see. So they're also sloping down. But of course, you could pop the core out, flip it 180, like so. And now you have those contact points facing the other way around. So this will make this one a bit more aggressive as well. Plus, it is pretty circular as well. So this might actually be a pretty good wheel substitute, potentially. Still, very, very nice assist blade. From what I've read with the ruling on this assist blade, is you can use turn with this. I mean, because they're the same core. But they're also treating the outer rings as the same. But yeah, pretty interesting. So that's it for dual. They want to stay together. There we go. Next up, we have the 570 ratchet. Nothing too crazy here. It's 570. Nice ratchet overall. So can't really say too much on this. Finally, for the bit, we have the new bit known as trans kick. So trans kick follows the same rhythm as trans point. So if I bring in trans point here, so as you can see, trans point and trans kick have these little notches here. So when the babe performs an extreme dash, it actually causes a height change. So if I bring in the ratchet here, so as normal, it will sit like this. But when it hits an extreme dash, it will actually change its height to that. Now, there are some benefits to changing your height like this. If you're using, say, a special an attacker that really specializes in downward attacks with a voice crack, they can really benefit from getting some really nice downward attacks. Plus, also can negate some height advantages here. But probably the main disadvantage with going with a height changing bit is, well, the height change can leave you a little bit more susceptible to upper attacks. And when you're in this position, you are going to be a little bit more burst prone. So it's definitely a bit of a risk. But probably the main disadvantage with trans kick, though, is that it does behave quite differently from the standard kick bit. So if I bring in the standard kick bit, if I put this like this, you might be able to tell trans kick's tip is slightly smaller than the standard kick bit. And this does affect its performance. Kick is normally a really aggressive balance type bit. Trans kick is not. It's definitely a bit more passive, which doesn't really help it that much. So I can't really recommend using trans kick over kick. It just doesn't really perform as well. But I mean, it's still a cool looking bit overall, but I wouldn't recommend using this over, say, the original kick. Now, with this combination of parts, Soul Blaze is a balance type, which is honestly pretty appropriate given all the mode changes it has. Alright, let's now talk about all the mode changes that you can do with the blade. Now, I'm not going to cover trans kick because that will just take way too long. I'm just going to focus on the 4 main modes that you can get with the blade. So the first mode is the mode that you get straight out of the box. So you have it like this. So you have orange side up and then the blade up. So you got this mode here, which is pretty much like, I would say you're more so your balance mode or your defense mode. But of course then you can flip this around. So now you have those contact points a bit more closer together, like so. So that's going to have a bit more aggressive behavior. but you probably still have a little bit more defense. Now, of course, with the core, you just pop this out, and then you flip the ring 180, like so. So now with this, in this mode, I would say you're really in full-on attack mode here, because you now have those contact points pointing a bit more downward, so you're going to be a bit more aggressive. And flipping this back up, you have that. So pretty interesting. That's going to be very interesting to mess with in the stadium. Alright, let's now do some weights for Sol Eclipse. So the trans kick bit, this weighs 2.24 grams. For comparison, trans point, this weighs 2.19 grams, so it's a little bit, this one's a little bit heavier, not by much. The 570 ratchet, this weighs 6.7 grams. Alright, so the dual arm assist blade, this weighs 5.88 grams. So for comparison, the turn assist blade weighs 5.80 grams. Let's just weigh up the outer rings as well. So the outer ring on dual weighs 2.78 grams, and the turn outer ring weighs 2.71 grams, so roughly the same. So you won't really get that much weight gain if you're swapping turn with dual. Oh, come on, get in there. There we go. Now for the lock chip, this weighs, as it falls off, this weighs 1.7 grams. That's about the average. So now the Eclipse primary blade, this feels pretty heavy. 32.33 grams. That is pretty heavy. That is one of the heavy CX primary blades available. So let's now put the bay together. I'm just gonna keep it with stock combo for this weight. Oh, come on. Oh. There we go. So there's the full blade. So this weighs, let's get this centered, 39.97 grams. So that is pretty heavy. That is right on the tippy point of 40 grams. Still not a bad weight at all. So let's now put the full bay together. So 570, trans kick. So there's the full combo. I think it looks pretty good. So all up, this blade weighs 48.82 grams. So pretty heavy. So let's try this out in some test battles. Alright, now I'm going to do some test battles with Sol Eclipse. Now for this, I'm actually going to do two different modes. So for the first test, I'm going to do it with the stock combo out of the box. And then after a while, I'm going to switch it to blue side up and put the assist blade downward. So let's see how this does with the stock combo first. I mean, for a balance type, that's actually definitely not as aggressive as I thought it was going to be. Because kick's normally pretty aggressive. And again, let's just try it again. Yeah, trans kick isn't really hitting the extreme line as much as, say, kick does. That's pretty interesting. Then again, I think the profile on the tip, at least for trans kick, is a little bit smaller than the standard kick. That's pretty interesting. Alright, let's see how this does in some test battles. now I'm switching to the other side. So I'm going to have blue side up, and the assist blade is been flipped around. So let's see how it does when the contact points are a bit more pointing downward. It seems like when it's pointing downward, it's a lot more aggressive. Whoa! Whoa, that was actually... Wow! Yeah, there's a bit more recoil when it's blue side up. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, but it's definitely a lot more aggressive when it's on blue. Oh yeah, that trans kick is no great. Sol Eclipse. Yeah, I'm very impressed with this bay overall. The mode change with this bay is definitely very unique and definitely does affect the performance depending on which one you use. So with the stock combo, with the red side up or orange side or whatever, the non-blue side, with the red side up and the assist blade up, it's definitely a bit more passive and definitely a lot more defensive. So this definitely would benefit from defense type and even balance type combos. So it definitely has that going for it. But when it's blue side up and then the assist blade pointing down, this bay's a lot more aggressive. With its recoil as well. It actually has some really interesting recoil. So this bay definitely will benefit from some really aggressive balance type combos and even attack types. So definitely pretty impressed with this bay overall. The dual assist blade, very, very nice. I'm very happy that it is at least cross-compatible with turn. So if you want to use, say, the turn outer ring on this, you can do that, which is pretty cool. I'm hoping I hope if they are going to continue using these mode change assist blades, I hope they keep the same system. 570, can't really complain. 570 is a really good ratchet. Trans kick though, I'm very disappointed with. It's definitely not as aggressive as kick, I've noticed, but it's just not really getting the attacks it needs. And the height change doesn't really help it either. It really makes it more prone to upper attacks. And to be honest, it's definitely not as good as Transpoint either. So I'm really not too sure what you could benefit from using this bit with. But the rest of the bay, though, I'm very happy with. Really, ever since Pegasus Blast, the CX releases have been really solid. So this is definitely going to be a very nice change to the meta. I don't think it's going to be meta breaking like Pegasus Blast, but it's definitely going to be a nice breath of fresh air for CX as well, if you wanted to try something different. So can I recommend Sol Eclipse? Absolutely. Definitely give this bay a try, and I think you really will like it. So that's going to do it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more Beyblade X videos in the future. Until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Well, and as I hold the camera in the outro. Alright, see you guys.